Welcome back. Since the very creation of the United States of America, the native people of this land have been systematically disenfranchised. To this day, indigenous communities in the United States still have limited access to health care, to infrastructure, and have disproportionately higher rates of chronic illnesses. The coronavirus pandemic has exacerbated those existing disparities. According to Indian Country Today, a newspaper that has been tracking the pandemic among Native people, nearly 5,000 cases have been confirmed, and nearly 150 people have died from the coronavirus. The Navajo Nation, the country's largest Indian reservation, now has a higher death rate than any U.S. state except New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Navajo Nation has tested about 8% of its population, compared to roughly 2% of the total U.S. population. In March, Congress passed the CARES Act, which allocated $8 billion for Native tribes. It took more than a month for the Treasury Department to distribute a little more than half of that money. The Navajo Nation has paired with C.O.R.E., a network of doctors, emergency workers, and government officials co-founded by Penn, to pilot free expanded diagnostic testing at 5 sites in Navajo country. And for more, I'm joined by Penn, actor and co-founder of C.O.R.E., and Jonathan Nez, president of the Navajo Nation. And President Nez, I want to start with you first. Let's talk about whether or not the money that is owed to the Navajo Nation ever got there.
Joy, thank you for having us on the show. Let me first of all say that yesterday's epidemiology report has 21,697 total tests given to our Navajo citizens here. 8%, a little bit over 8% of our total population have been tested. 3,632 have been positive, and over 50% of those numbers in the IHS are right here on the Navajo Nation. 16,354 are negative, 127 deaths. We also have some, some good news, even though all these numbers are not that great. But recovery, 515 confirmed recoveries here on the Navajo Nation. And with what Sean and C.O.R.E. has been doing, is helping out with some testing here on the Navajo Nation. And the dollars that have finally come in 1 week ago, we waited 7 weeks, and we had to file a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Treasury for those dollars to go out to Indian country, 574 tribes. And, with the help of Ali Young and Mark Ruffalo with STRICTEST and Sean Penn here, we're utilizing our own resources and the friends of the Navajo Nation to help test and to help get supplies, the needed food and supplies to our Navajo citizens.
Yeah. And, Sean, one of the challenges is that there were already disparities in terms of access to health care, meaning in many of these, in parts of Indian country, as it's called, there just weren't hospitals. There weren't a lot of hospitals anyway. So how is the resource allocation working to make sure that the amount of hospital availability, the amount of ventilators, et cetera, matches the need?
I'd say the first resource we concern ourselves with as an organization is where leadership and citizenry are combined in terms of helping themselves and each other. And we found that in extraordinary ways here at the Navajo Reservation, where we believe that they're going to be able to do whatever they have to do, whether they get the support that is not a gift. It's a support that we, as a nation through treaties, this is their money, this is their support already. So what we are able to do when we work with leaderships like President Nez and with the people of the Navajo Nation, who when we ride around the reservation, from chapter to chapter, we see this great respect to social distancing and wearing of masks. And I think that's the reason that Navajo Nation is on the recovery. And as you said, though, the resources are very depleted here. And so we are hoping that and helping to resource some of that and support and supplement of under the leadership. And also we have great partners with Joy-Ann Reid, with World Central Kitchen. We've got Dig Deep and Johns Hopkins University has been here for about 40 years working. So we think we've got a good team in support of the Navajo. and with the Navajo to be able to really enhance the testing that, as the president said, already in their will and under his leadership, they've done, about 7% better than the national average.
Yeah. And President Nez, there's been, obviously a very tormented history of the federal government in the United States not keeping promises and, in fact, in many cases, doing more damage than is even imaginable to indigenous tribes and native tribes. We've also seen some state governments not be helpful. We see in South Dakota, the governor there suing and threatening the tribes there, the Sioux tribes there, saying they have to open up their roads, et cetera. Are you getting the kind of local government cooperation that you need?
Well, here on the Navajo Nation, we are 27,000 square miles. We have 350,000 Navajos. Half of those live on our Navajo Nation. We are in Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. And I want to give a thank you to those governors for them recognizing the inherent sovereignty of the Navajo Nation. And I don't see that happening up there in South Dakota. We need people to be working together, leaders to be working together to help flatten this curve. The other thing that I see that is needed is also to follow the CDC guidelines. These experts and the healthcare professionals, they're telling us that we shouldn't be opening up businesses or governments in the region. And I hate for us to lower the numbers here on the Navajo Nation, and then you get other spikes in Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico, and then we begin to have a second rise in coronavirus cases. So it is very important, Joy, to let our neighbors know in the border towns that we're all interconnected and we all need to work together to flatten the curve so that we can eradicate coronavirus throughout this country. And lastly, with the federal government's slowness to give us some resources, we're not asking for handouts, Joy. These are dollars that were intended for U.S. citizens. And we are the first citizens here in the United States of America. And it's quite alarming to see that leaders, tribal leaders, have to wait for the necessary aid to get to their people to help. And I'm looking at these numbers. They always say hindsight is 20/20, Joy. I don't know. If the monies came in 10 weeks ago, I wonder how these numbers may have been different or a lot less.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sean Penn, President Jonathan Nez, thank you both very much. Be safe and best of luck with everything that you are doing.